Boogeyman band coming round the bend. Is Boogeyman band. Is Boogeyman band.
Thanks, my fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone. I hope everyone's doing well. Happy to be back in the zone. It's been a while. A lot of the video content that I've been posting lately, I've been doing outside of the Horror Zone from my office. But today I really wanted to talk about a special event that I went to, and I want to send a special thank you to my friend John Russell. He is awesome and somebody that I've gotten to know really well over the last few years. Our paths have never crossed, though, at some of the things that we frequent, like Sinister Creature Con. We first met back in 2015 in Berkeley, California at the Shattuck Theater when Adam Green and Alex Pardee were touring Digging Up the Marrow, Adam Green's mockumentary about Munsters, and Alex Pardee did the artwork. Yeah, we crossed paths there during the autograph sessions and the meet and greets, and we just had a mutual respect and love of the horror genre, and we've kept in contact through social media, through Facebook, through Instagram. John let me know about this event that was coming up on November the 13th, featuring Butch Patrick, played Eddie Munster, in the Munsters television show, which ran from 1964 to 1966, and told me that they were going to be doing a screening of a movie called Munster Go Home, which is the final time that all of these cast members were together as the Munsters, being Fred Gwynn as Herman Munster, Yvonne DiCarlo as Lily Munster, Al Lewis as Grandpa Munster, and of course Butch Patrick as Eddie Munster. I told John I would go to it. John lives in Roseville. We had wanted to hook up for the Sinister Creature Con, which was this past August. He lives really close to where the event took place, but because of a family matter, he couldn't make it. So he drove down from Roseville. We met up at the theater. What an amazing time I had, and this theater was fantastic. They had a signing as well. I'm actually wearing the shirt that I bought there. It says the Munsters. It's got the cars, it's got all the characters, and it was signed by Butch Patrick right here. And I got an autographed picture, which I've hung up in my office, as well as a photo op with Mr. Patrick, who was very, very nice. Shared a lot of amazing stories. I tried to capture as much as possible without being one of those annoying people, because I really just wanted to immerse myself in the experience. And just hanging out with John, I mean, I'm hoping that we can do more stuff like this. Just found a kindred spirit in John, and like I said, you know, this is our first time crossing paths in over 6 years. So yeah, what a blast. I mean, it was a blast going to this, and yeah, I just wanted to share this with everyone. The footage that I took at the event, I did take a couple of shots from, you know, the screening itself. I had never seen Munster Go Home. I had never really heard about it. Growing up, I was really a big Addams Family fan. I just thought the Addams Family was cool, and just their opening theme and everything with the, you know, I mean, I really was into that show. Not to say I didn't enjoy the Munsters and didn't frequently watch them as well, but this whole experience, just going to this event and seeing Butch Patrick and him talking about, you know, just his life on the set and with the cast and some of the experiences he had as a child actor doing that show, it was amazing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take you guys on the tour with me to the Orinda Theater for this special Munster Go Home Butch Patrick meet and greet you know, event, and then I will come back and give you my closing thoughts. So
Trick. Thank you so much.
Alrighty.
You're live.
Butch. Holy grandpa, Eddie mask.
So we're going to do a little brief discussion right now. Thank you so much for being here at the Orinda Theater.
I gotta tell you, thank you for having me here. I'm just having the best time. I love these old theaters, and this, you guys don't know how lucky you are to have this theater in your neighborhood. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
First time people here at the Orinda? All right.
What do you think?
Yeah.
Huh?
No, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
you'll be back, right?
So, Butch, let's talk a little bit about a little show called The Munsters.
What would you like to talk about?
Well, first of all, that wasn't your first series. You were on General Hospital before.
No, what happened was when I was 7 years old, I never got into acting as wanting to be an actor. It just, happenstance occurred. I went on a car ride with my little sister, who they were taking some pictures for her to maybe be in some print modeling. And I went along for the ride, and after the gentleman was done shooting Michelle, he looked over at me and he goes, would you mind if I take a couple pictures of your son? He's got this look, and he had a studio on Hollywood Boulevard. So he took a picture of me in this silly hat with this kind of expression. And about 2 weeks later, a Hollywood producer and director were walking by, casting a movie, and they still needed the youngest son for Eddie Albert and Jane Wyatt's movie with Brenda Lee. And they sought me out. I went up on an interview. I'd never acted before, never had any ambitions at 7 years old. And they hired me for this movie. And during the 6 weeks I worked on the movie, I picked up a little series called General Hospital, did the first episode ever, and then after that I did The Real McCoys for a year. So when the Munsters came along, I had already done a couple series, a lot of commercials, and some work. So I had 4 years of work under my belt when the Munsters came along.
You said you were in the Midwest, you got onto the show, and how was it the youngest person on the show and the only kid? How did that work?
Well, I was used to working, so the being the only kid didn't really bother me too much. Luckily, we had some guest stars occasionally, but the funny thing was I was the only kid in the entire Universal studio. There was a lot of other productions going on, they just didn't happen to have any other children, so I got pretty much accustomed to roaming around on my own and exploring, and made friends with everybody, and the show was a hit. I had a lot of exciting experiences. We had a lot of great guest stars come through. My mom would kind of point things out, and for instance, for about a 3-month period, Alfred Hitchcock was shooting a movie next door called Torn Curtain, which starred Paul Newman, and some other people. I think Lana Turner was in it. We always had interesting folks around the studio, but saw a lot of famous people that just seemed to be regular folks doing their job.
It was just like every day.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Not to mention Al and Fred and the cast of the show. We were all very close, and there was a lot of talent on that show, and I learned a lot. And Fred taught me a lot about acting, and Al spent a lot of time with me, taught me a lot about life. So I was in good hands.
Right. And how did the cast get along together?
Great. We got along really great. I think that shows. I think you couldn't fake the chemistry that they had as a family unit. It was very believable because it was real. At 11 o'clock at night on a Friday night, we're finishing up the Munster Go Home movie, and this is the end of the series. Now the series is over. We're into the movie 6 weeks later, and this particular evening was the final day of the shoot of the movie, but it happened to be the final day of the Munsters forever. At least the Munsters as we knew it at that time. And about 11 o'clock at night, they soak down the street to simulate snow. We jump in the Munster coach. We leave Munster Hall, and we drive down this road, and as we turn the ground and we come back, they say, cut, that's a wrap. Lights go down, everybody gets out, it's late at night, there's not even a party because it's so late, and everybody just literally, some people were crying, some people were like, hugging, kissing, whatever, and we went on our way never to be together again, at least at that time as a functioning family unit in front of a camera.
Right. And did you keep in contact with the cast over the years?
I did. I didn't keep in contact with them until I became an adult, and when I did Eddie and the Monsters in 1981, they were filming The Munsters Revenge, And a friend of mine happened to notice at his business, he saw them filming across the street and he invited me down. At that time, I reconnected with Fred and Al. And I actually had Al help me with the promotion for Eddie and the Munsters. I was in New York, he was in Los Angeles, and he was kind enough to take the stage and introduce them to the world at the Palladium. And that's when we started reconnecting. I was 28 years old. And we started touring, and Comic-Cons were coming about, and conventions, and the Munsters was in demand, and we started appearing together. That's how we reconnected. And we did stay together until the passing of both Yvonne and Al. And Fred not so much, because Fred was trying to distance himself from the Munsters, and he died very young in 1993, right after my cousin Benny. Sketches for the costumes. I know who they cast. I'm happy with that, and I personally know Rob and Sherry, and I think Universal, between his talent and their protectiveness of the franchise, I think they'll come up with a really good movie. I think I'm hoping for the best, and let's see what happens. I'm excited. Oh, Rob's a huge. Well, the Munsters. It's funny, the Munsters has a huge fan base, and I mean, that happens to include a lot of famous people. Howard Stern's a huge fan, Rob Zombie's a huge fan, Paul McCartney's a huge fan. One of my favorite quotes in Rolling Stone back in the 70s, they asked Paul what he likes to do to relax, and he said, I like to twist one up and watch reruns of the Munsters. So if the Beatles like it, I like it, right?
Yeah. Now, you talked about Howard Stern. I mean, you've been on Howard Stern's show
Several
times.
sure, yeah.
And how is that to be in the hot seat with Howard Stern?
Well, I was very intimidated going on the show with Howard, listening to him, because I had no idea that it was all an act. And I went on with Grandpa, Al Lewis. We were there for the opening of his restaurant. And going over, I was listening to Howard, and he was like, really? I said, I was not looking forward to being in the hot seat, as you put it. And as soon as I got there, he treated us as nice as could be. He loved the Munsters. As soon as the mic went dead, he's a regular guy. I mean, he's a very intelligent guy, but he was a regular guy talking regular stuff, and the mic would come back on, and then he would turn it back on.
Right.
And that's how people are. Alice Cooper's a big Munsters fan. Go figure on that one.
A lot of people are fans of the Munsters.
The Munsters has got a huge fan base. It's wonderful. It's I couldn't have asked for a better show to be part of. Not only while I was doing it, but the ride I've had since it went off the air has been phenomenal. And the fan base and the people that enjoy the show are just genuinely nice people.
Right. And why do you think the show actually holds up compared to some other shows? They just don't work.
In the 60s, there were a lot of shows that had no reality base whatsoever that were very popular. I did My Favorite Martian, I did I Dream of Jeannie, I did Two Mr. Eds. These shows were there to entertain families at home in their living room after dinner. And a lot of times it was, the TV was the entertainment box, the magic box, TV dinners, TV trays, but this was entertainment during the week. Weekends were sort of movie theaters like this, but weekdays were TV. And writers and actors, they just, in the 60s, had a wonderful way of creating shows. Not all of them were escapism shows. There was, westerns and this and that, and cop shows and lawyer shows and doctor shows. But the fun shows and the comedy shows seemed to be really, really well done, because there just seemed to be a great amount of good writing and actors that were available to do it. And I don't know why it is. It was just lucky. We were just lucky to be part of pop culture in its best.
Right. Yeah. Because a lot of people, all families are unique and different and try to get along. And this is, I think, covers all bases.
Well, a good example is, you never thought of Herman Munster as Frankenstein. He was based on the Frankenstein monster, as was Al Dracula and Yvonne, vampire and so on. But you never ever thought of them as being scary or anything but lovable human beings in monster shapes and looks like that. But Fred, they did such a good job writing the dialogue that you immediately knew Fred Gwynne as a warm human being who, was funny and lovable, and it just never went down the path of being scary. do this again with the Phantom Toll Booth. I think we got an audience for that.
For sure. And we also, I want to do a weekend of classic television.
Oh,
just like boom, 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 boom. Q&As with everybody. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm game for that. I'm actually working with Classic Reruns TV, which is a new upstart MeTV channel, and you just can't get enough of the great old shows from that period. I love it, and everybody seems to love it. So yeah, I look forward to joining in on that one.
Sounds good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy Munsters, go home.
And with that, my Woof Woof and I are going to say goodnight. So take it easy, stay scared, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.